Let me bring in now our political editor, Lyndal Curtis, who is in Canberra. Lyndal Curtis, we knew that there were some sad news coming for Australian Defence Force and the Australian public, and it's far worse than we had imagined.
Yes, it is far worse. It does seem, as the Defence Force was dealing with the news of the 3 soldiers killed at the patrol base just north of Tarancot, they were also getting news of the 2 Special Forces soldiers killed in this helicopter accident in the Helmand province. As he said, it was an ISAF helicopter, International Security Assistance Force helicopter. We're not sure yet which country that helicopter came from, but it was landing during what appears to be an operation, and it rolled over. That news, Mark Binskin says, the Air Marshal says, came through at about 10 to 8 Australian time. So they would have been dealing with the sad news they'd already received, and some more came through. So 5 deaths of Australian forces, and I mentioned too the 2 Australian soldiers wounded in the incident at the patrol base Wahib. One had serious gunshot wounds. He's in a satisfactory condition. The other had minor wounds and stayed at the patrol base.
And Lyndal, at this stage, the families have been notified, but they've all asked at this stage that no personal details of these soldiers have been released, and that's why we just have their ages and their ranks at this stage. We are expected to hear shortly from the Prime Minister, Julia Gillard, who is in the Cook Islands, and while we wait for her, Lyndal Curtis, the Acting Chief of the Defence Force, Mark Binskin, saying that this has really rocked the morale of the Australian troops in Afghanistan, but it's not going to deter them from their mission.
No, and rocked morale for a range of reasons, not only the fact that they are dealing with the news that 5 of their comrades have died on the one day, but the first incident at patrol base Wahib north of Tarancot is what is called a green on blue incident. A member of the Afghan National Army opened fire on Australian soldiers as they were relaxing at the end of the day. That has the potential to breach the trust that the soldiers work very hard to build, and as Mark Binskin says, morale has taken a hit. And although there will be probably some more force protection measures that the Australian forces put in place, he said they were already at a very high level, higher than potentially for other ISAF forces. But he said there are a range of steps that commanders on the ground can take, and he said that enhanced force protection measures have been looked at by Australian personnel in cooperation with the Afghan commanders.
And certainly the Acting Chief of the Defence Force saying the motivation for this Afghan soldier, or somebody that they assume to be an Afghan soldier, he was wearing the uniform, the motivation for him opening fire, they're not yet clear about, but he says it won't, the Australian troops won't allow it to drive a wedge between them and the Afghans that they are training. But nonetheless, this is a very difficult thing. We've heard from a lot of military experts, it's very difficult to adjust to a situation like this.
Yes, and you heard the Acting Chief of the Defence Force talk about some of the reasons for the rogue attacks or the green on blue attacks that are talked about. Now, he said the Taliban often likes to take responsibility, but he mentioned other reasons, personal grievances. Some of these attacks are driven by or perceived cultural insensitivities. So there is discussion, if you read some of the material in the international media and about some of the discussions going on about why these things happen. There is discussion about how high the level is for the reasons for Taliban, for insurgents infiltrating the Afghan National Army and then killing coalition soldiers, and how much is for other reasons, for, as I said, personal grievances or cultural insensitivity. So they may take some time to find out what the reasons were. As you heard the Acting Chief of the Defence Force say, they do know the name of this person, and he is being pursued both by Australian and Afghan forces.
And of course the other complication to all of this, as the Acting Chief of the Defence Force Air Marshal Mark Binskin said, is the fact that there have been 2 incidents in such a short period of time. The Defence Force is sending investigators, they're trying to get to the bottom of both of these incidents, but the fact that there's so much to deal with has complicated the investigation and also, I guess, the flow of information, Lyndal Curtis.
Yes, and he did talk about both of them being complex incidents, and the fact that they'd occurred almost together created an extremely complex scenario.
And the other interesting thing was that while the acting chief of the Defence Force wasn't able to give a lot of details, and certainly in this second case where the 2 members of the Special Forces were killed, we should be clear that he's not even been able to give a physical location for that or any details of the operation due to the sensitivity of those operations involving Special Forces.
Yes, he did say that the the operation is ongoing, so it seems we will have to wait for details. It is not uncommon when deaths occur as a result of ongoing operations that details are kept secret, are kept quiet until those operations are concluded.
All right, Lyndal Curtis, I'll let you get a glass of water and deal with the frog in your throat. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon.